Greetings, folks. Greetings. This is David back again with another live stream. Welcome back to Verse by Shape. It is 10:30 p.m. on the night of the 28th, 2026. As I make this broadcast, I had envisioned maybe trying to work my way through like a 2-hour live stream and really get into some details, but no, I'm not going to be able to do that. I'm just too beat down from the day, even though it was nice to have a day off, a day of not driving a semi truck, a day of perfect weather, not a cloud in sight, perfect temperature after I did my hour exercise, walking slash jogging, fed the chickens, fed myself, was just outside earlier today just saying thank you, God, for this day off and for all the beauty of the world that you made. Thank you, Lord. But what I want to talk about tonight is in keeping with the video that I made the other day when I was over the road. I think I titled it "President Trump is officially a war criminal" because that's just the flat out honest truth. And even though I listen to a lot of news about the war, for instance, I don't listen to news about everything, but in the lead up to there's just something about this situation where in the lead up these past few months to the war in Iran and Israel, that the build up really toward the end of last year, but especially the way this year got kicked off with Trump going after Maduro in the first week of the new year. So much for hope of peace and prosperity and harmony. No, we gotta start knocking people over, knocking people down right out of the get go with this new year. Thanks. This it's just so wonderful. It's just a wonderful world we're living in now, and such a wonderful course that the United States is on at this present moment. Not really. I'm being facetious, squared right now when I say that. What do I want to do tonight? I don't stream enough to be good at this. I'm beat down from driving the truck, and as much as I would like to get on here and talk to you good people every night on here or make more videos, which is probably what I'll end up doing. For instance, that video that I made that I'm gonna make a whole live stream about now to really get things off my chest because that video was just kind of a prelude to this. That's probably going to be what I do. Try and make 2 or 3 videos and put them on the YouTube side of Verse by Shape. And yeah, just visit YouTube, find this channel that's over there, and I'll put those videos there just so I'm doing more to try and grow an audience and try and speak more and get better at speaking and making videos. But what do I want to do tonight? It's too late and I'm too beat to really do as much as I'd like to do. But there are 3 different clips that I've uh, found that I want to look at to really help us go back in time. I want to go back to the start of the war. That Saturday morning is when it all got kicked off. It was actually Friday night over there on the other side of the world when the war really started with the preemptive, let's get them before they get us, retardery that is preemptive wars. And we're going to just go back to a couple of the things that were just making me think I was in some kind of a weird dream and that hopefully the Lord will let me wake up and real life won't be as messed up as this current situation is. I couldn't be more disappointed. This is what I'm talking about. I couldn't be more disappointed with President Trump and his underlings, his cabinet, whatever, at this time. I mean, what could he do more to totally undo all of his campaign promises and everything? And I say this as somebody who doesn't really have a dog in the fight, no real hopes in anything governmental. I separate politics from government in this regard because you and I, whatever, however we find a way to live in harmony with the people around us, even if it's just staying away from the people who hate us. You know, you pray for them, but if you can't work with them, if you can't deal with them, the best thing you can do is just try and get away from them. Apart from that, you learn to live with people. It's a politic. It's political. Your politics. I separate that from the governmental. There is no government solution to all the problems that we have in this country. There's just not, apart from cutting the government down to size, making it smaller so that it can't hurt you and tax you as much. That's the only answer that I see. That's the only answer I have seen for many years now. So I try and separate politics a little bit from the government, if that even makes sense to you, because you got to figure out how to do things yourself without going to Big Daddy government to rescue you. Because as you can see, the government only destroys. The people within it only become corrupt the more comfortable they get and the more harm they do. Look at what's going on here. Donald Trump ran on no new wars. And I mentioned how, not just in that previous video made this past week on YouTube, but in other videos in the past, how the thing that sold me about Trump running back in 2015, 2016, and made me think of him as a serious person, not necessarily a serious Republican contender to be the nominee for president on a Republican ticket. No, something more important than that, because the Republican establishment could always squeeze him out and send him packing, except Trump managed to win the hearts of the people at that time. At that time, not so much now. But what made me think of him maybe as a serious person was the way he got up on a stage one time and in front of an audience full of Republicans and a bunch of guys who were running to be in that debate stage, running to be president of the United States on the Republican ticket, said they lied about the Iraq war. I'll never forget his words, and I say this often because I loved it the way he said it. Take it any way you want it, he said, in front of all those people in that audience and in front of all of his opponents, political debate opponents, who would be presidential. They're all running for president, and so was he. He said it in front of everybody in the whole world. Take it any which way you want it. They lied. He said it twice. They lied about the Iraq war and the lead up to the war, weapons of mass destruction, and all the rest of it, to get the people support enough to get that war started, and all the harm and damage and trauma that did to the war, to Iraq, to international relations, to America's good name, if it even has a good name anymore, and to countless military families in losing their loved ones in combat deaths, and a lot of busted up, broken up soldiers, Marines, sailors, airmen. Now fast forward to this Trump, who seems like a totally different person. Plus, whoever this man is, if he is the real Trump or not to get too conspiratorial, this fellow, and I have to assume it is the real Donald Trump. Sorry, I just have to assume that, because what else can I do? What else can I do out here? I'm just a little peon who sees what the world hands me, and I have to deal with it. This Donald Trump is losing his mind. He has got full-on senility at this point from the way he talks and the ideas that he entertains. I don't know how he was so swayed to go in the direction of big war when he had just been willing to do stuff like when he killed that runway in Syria. Like, see, I can drop bombs, and that pacified some people for the time being. He didn't want to go to war against people. But something about this year especially, and all of the intricate, impressive, they were so impressive, and no one more than Donald Trump with the Maduro operation and arresting Maduro, this guy who he just really doesn't like, really is what it all is when you boil it all down, and not much more than that. He just had to go after this guy. Anyways, I didn't even do my audio check. Let me do that real quick just to make sure that I'm not just speaking. Yep, we're good. It's happening. So, what do I want to do tonight? What I want to do, instead of trying to chase down everything that I have thought and learned about the war and about listening to both sides of it to find out what exactly is going on the battlefield, as much as one layman, not lame man, layman over here just trying to exist, do my trucking job while this major war is happening on the other side of the world. what's really going on, and what is the situation, and why is it even happening. All the stuff that I've learned from all of the listening to myriad voices on this side and that side to find out what's going on. It's not possible for me to give a synopsis of all that in one live stream. So all I want to do is go back to the beginning tonight and just look at a couple of things that made me not so much understand that the situation is hopeless in this country as far as the government goes. I already knew that. You still have to live through it, though, even though you know there's no hope for us to get decent leaders elected in high office in this country. We're going to look at Mike Johnson and Marco Rubio. A couple of things, a couple of clips from them in just a minute, and that'll be the thrust. That'll be the most that we do for this live stream tonight, because it's just not worth doing more tonight than that. Maybe I'll talk more about this subject, which is going to be ongoing for a while, in videos and put them over on the YouTube side. Uh, Again, this same channel name, Verse by Shape, just over on YouTube. Maybe I'll do that. But that's all we'll do for tonight as far as this live stream, because there's just too much to say, and it's all going to be the same thing. What in the world is going on, and why are these people doing this? If they had only listened to people like the people I listen to. I'm not some military expert. I'm not a geopolitical analyst expert. I'm not a military historian. I'm not God. I'm not all knowing. I don't know everything. I'm not an expert on any of these fields. I just listen to people who have proven that they know what in the world they're talking about. I don't know who convinced Donald Trump that it would be a good idea to launch a preemptive war against Iran and think you could just kill some people and walk away and get away with it, and that they would be begging for mercy, and we'll get some better people in there who aren't ayatollahs and mullahs and whatnot. It's like, you should have been listening to Scott Ritter instead of blocking him on X or whatever. You should have been listening to Douglas McGregor, Colonel Douglas McGregor, Lieutenant Colonel Danny Davis. You should have been listening to pretty much everybody that Judge Andrew Napolitano interviews on his YouTube live streams, President Trump. You should have listened to, what is the man's name? Crowley. He was a former British MI6 expert, historian, diplomat. Just so many people who I've been listening to for months now and giving me an education, as much of an education as you can get by watching YouTube videos, which can actually be worth this much. You would know, if you listen to these people, that Iran has big time capabilities as far as drones and missile warfare, advanced even beyond the United States military, apparently, and that they're not just falling apart at the seams with their social cohesion, that the mullahs, the ayatollahs, are not as hated and barbaric and tyrannical as we've been told. And it's not all just a house of cards just waiting for somebody to come just blow it over, and that it's just going to just collapse. There's so much more that can be said about those couple of things, and much more. But just those two things alone would be enough to tell you, don't do this. Don't sick the United States military onto a target that shouldn't be a target, as though you have a right to just go to war. And this is what's going to get us into the first clip. This is a war. We're at war. The Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, talks about war, war, war. He wants to be the Secretary of War, not the Secretary of Defense. For it to be the Department of War, not the Department of Defense. And he must, I don't know. I'm not going to make jokes. There's nothing funny about it. When I said I want some of whatever he's on that hops him up and makes him so rah rah. I take it back. because whatever he's on ain't good. It ain't good for your mind or your soul, your spirit. Let's just go ahead and play this clip. Let me share this. This is going to be the Speaker Mike Johnson clip, and StreamYards has added stuff that I got to find it again. Here we go. Yeah, I'll just. How do I want to do this? I don't stream enough to get good at this. Okay, I'll just hang out here over here in this little box. And now we're gonna listen to this man. Let's. I might pause it from time to time if something really gets my goat, which I know it will. But other than that, we'll just let this play.
The United States military, together with the wonderful Israeli partners, continues to.
He can't mention them without praising them. I know President Trump can't say hardly anything without adding colorful, descriptive whatnot, but especially as far as those of the special relationship, he can't help himself.
To totally demolish the enemy far ahead of schedule.
Yeah, they're really demolished. They're still launching missiles 3 weeks later.
Just some of the president's comments today on the war in Iran, now in its sixth day and showing no sign of letting up.
So this was from 2 weeks ago.
On wave of strikes raining down on Iran. Though in an exclusive interview with NBC's Tom Yamis, Iran's foreign minister is pushing back, saying its systems are working and that the U.S. has not achieved its goals.
What was their goal? They came here for a regime change, perhaps. They came here for a rapid victory so they can, control everything. But they have failed. The system is working. The commanders have been replaced, and the supreme leader is going to be replaced soon.
This was very interesting. And this is one more thing that Colonel Douglas McGregor, Lieutenant Colonel Danny Davis, Scott Ritter et al., and a bunch of other people, and pretty much everybody on Andrew Napolitano's guest list, people he interviews, were saying that this was all set up beforehand, that the Iranians saw what was coming. They know from decades of experience with Israel, but especially more and more since 79 with the United States, that ultimately these people called the neocons want to destroy Iran. They want to divide it up, conquer it, so it'll be easier managed for little Israel to be the dominant force, the big daddy power in the Middle East, just like what's happened to Libya, Syria, all these countries, and what they wanted to do with Russia, but it didn't work out for them, they want to do to Iran. They know they're never going to stop. The Iranians know that the USA and Israel are never going to stop, ever. It's like the Terminator in that movie of the same name, The Terminator. It will never stop, ever, until you are dead. That's USA/Israel, the Epstein alliance toward Iran. They will never stop attacking Iran now, ever, until it is divided up and broken up, conquered, so into smaller pieces, warring with each other, so that the USA/Israel will be able to control it and influence it forever and get whatever they want out of it and pillage it. And this diplomat, I'm not even going to try and say his name, he's just been cool as a cucumber this whole time. Just said, yes, we are ready for them. Sir, are you saying you're ready for an American invasion? Yes, we're prepared for them. He's just cool as can be about all this. It's like, everything's working. They came here to destroy us and regime change, but we've replaced everybody because everybody has to be replaced after they've been killed. That's what Scott Ritter and Danny Davis and Douglas McGregor et al. Were saying. There's a line of succession up to like 6 people, like they're coming to kill us and take our country over. If you die, so and so and so and so and so and so will be in line to work it out. You replace, just keep going. If I die, somebody replaces me. If the Ayatollah is killed, it's a line of succession, like 6 or 7 layers deep, I hear. So that if people are killed by American and Israeli bombs, you don't just throw up your hands and surrender. It's not the end of the world. It's like next man up. That's what it is. It's next man up. the real Survivor game, next man up. And so, yeah, it's just so stupid, and so sorry that this has happened.
Iran has targeted American military bases in more than a dozen other countries, which led many nations to shut down airspace. The State Department says it started charter flights to get thousands of stranded Americans.
Pause. This is reminding me of something else that happened in the first week, and I'm not even going to bother looking it up. Look it up on your own if you want to. There was an instance that I read of somewhere online. It was some news site saying it was one of the first instances where it was being said that U.S. troops were taken out of their bases in the Middle East that were being targeted by Iranian missiles, put into a hotel in whatever Arab states. I forget where it was or which country it was, but that they were then being targeted there. And I have my phone in my hand. I was, where was I? I was on my way to Green Bay, Wisconsin, delivering something there. Is where I was when this happened. Supposed to be delivering the next morning. I'm in the truck. I'm looking at my phone. I'm reading this story, and I'm thinking to myself, so let me get this straight. You launched this war without preparing the troops that are in the Middle East of what's going on and what they're going to need to do in case they're attacked. You end up having them put out of their military bases because military bases are under missile strike. You put them in hotels, and now these hotels that you're telling them to go to are also being hit with drones and missiles. I'm looking at my phone. I'm reading this story, and I'm like, I don't know if this is true, but the idea that American military service people were hung out to dry like this because of this retarded war and just going into it like you got good sense when you're turning out to be the stupidest leaders this country has ever had, possibly. I'm looking at my phone, and I'm thinking, I don't know if this is true, what I'm reading, but if it's true, he does need to be impeached. He does need to be found guilty, and he does need to be removed from office and jailed. That's what I'm thinking as I'm reading this story on my phone. Now let's go back into this video.
Out of the troubled area, Iranian state media reporting more than 1,200 people have been killed since Saturday. Lebanon reporting just over 100 deaths. Around a dozen people are dead in Israel, and 6 U.S. troops have also been killed. Today in Congress, another war powers resolution came up for vote to halt U.S. attacks in Iran and limit President Trump's powers.
On this vote, the yeas are 212, the nays are 219. The concurrent resolution is not adopted.
The effort failing by a margin of just 7 votes after the Senate effort yesterday failed as well.
It would have been a very dangerous gambit to take the commander-in-chief's ability away to complete.
Here we go. Here's where he says it. Here's where this was one of the first things that I heard in that first week of the war that just made me think, these people think we're idiots. They think we're like mentally challenged children to believe what they're saying, that they have the audacity to say it, the cojones to say these things and expect you to believe them when he says we're not at war. Let's get to it.
Complete this mission. It would have been a very serious misstep by Congress, and I'm grateful that
it would have been a misstep by Congress to actually do their job the right way, is what he just said to you. It would be a misstep by Congress to limit the president's war powers, whatnot, by actually declaring war as the people's representatives of Congress are supposed to do before you go to war, because that's what a war is. If you're dropping bombs on people, you're at war. In Venezuela, if you're cutting off people's supply line and blockading their ports, that's what you do when you're at war. You starve them out. And yet they're acting like you're not at war when you do that. That's exactly what war is. Because if you stop the supply, you stop the war. They're trying to starve people. That's war they waged on Venezuela. Venezuela is not as strong as Iran is to fight back. Hence the situation that they find themselves in now that they picked a fight with somebody who can actually hit them back, the empire that is. And it looks like they're going to be hitting them back for quite a while. Let's listen to him.
That resolution failed.
Okay, lawmakers in the House did approve a separate measure today that affirmed Iran is the largest state sponsor of terrorism. House Speaker Mike Johnson.
Of course they are. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe somebody can leave me a comment or something in my broadcast here on this channel, or if I upload this to YouTube. I'm too sick of this stuff to go back and check. It doesn't matter because I know these people don't give a care about actually following the law. I'm talking about Congress. Wasn't this vote that failed just a vote about having a vote? Like they voted on whether or not they would vote to limit President Trump's war-making ability toward Iran. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that was what the case was.
Johnson telling reporters that despite all of the military action, apparently the U.S. is not at war.
She almost couldn't get the words out. Did you see the way her expression changed?
We're not at war. We have no intention of being at war. The president and the Department of Defense have made this very clear.
You are retarded if you don't think that dropping bombs, and you got the Secretary of War, quote unquote, Pete Hegseth, saying we're hitting them harder than we've ever hit them before, and it only gets more harder with each passing day. As of now, 3 weeks into it, there have been like 10,000 bombs dropped, like 10,000 targets. Like how many targets are there in Iran? You're just looking at stuff to bomb now.
Clear. The Department of War has made it very clear. This is a limited operation. It's an operation that's limited.
It's limited in just killing the main head of state, the supreme leader over there, and also murdering 170 kids while you're at it. It's limited, don't you see?
In its scope and duration, it has a very clear mission, and that mission is nearly.
I don't know anybody who would have voted for all this if they knew this guy was going to be where he is and saying the things that he's saying. I know I sure wouldn't have.
Accomplished by all estimates.
The dumb, politically correct wars of the past.
Oh my goodness! So there he said it. We're not at war. We have no intention of being at war. We're just at war without being at war. This to me, and I say this as somebody who, if you had to place me somewhere, it would be on the conservative side of the fence, even though there's much more nuance in this world, as we're seeing now more than ever, than just left, right. I don't know anybody who would have gone along with this junk. We're not at war. It's more Orwellian, more offensive to me than anything maybe any Democrat has ever done. I got sick of hearing Obama's voice over those 8 years. Now, it's been warp speed ahead, no pun intended, with President Trump's voice and these other characters' voice. I just can't even stand to hear them now. Okay, let's hear the Secretary of War here.
We're the opposite of what we're doing here.
This is the weirdest thing ever. The way Hegseth talks about stuff, the way he talks about the war is like, it's like he thinks, surely he knows people are dying. I can't say that about him. I can't say that he doesn't know that actual war is happening because that's what he's always talking about. But he talks about, this isn't like the woke wars of the past and the dumb wars of the past and the stupid rules of engagement. Maybe he's just crazy. Maybe he just has the mindset of a killer. I don't know. I heard something said recently that was kind of interesting, like getting into his personal psychology, whether he has a problem with the bottle and with chasing women to his detriment in the past and all this kind of stuff. And that this particular brand of Zionism, the whole premillennial Armageddon war thing, I'm glad people are getting an education these days, as hard as that is, about how insane some of these ideas are that people have. They're not in the Bible. It's twisted up scripture the way people do. But that it gives him a purpose that combines his past war fighting military life with something that he can grapple with. And it was a really, I forget who said it. It was either Colonel Lawrence, I think his name is, one of Andrew Napolitano's guests, or Wilkes. I'm getting his name wrong. Wilkerson, yeah. Lawrence Wilkerson, yeah, something like that. And that was one of the most curious and interesting things that's been said about the Hegseth since this started. And I don't even mean to try and get into his psyche. I'm just here saying, you're wrong. You're doing something that's evil. You shouldn't be doing it. And one way or another, he is going to have to pay for those kids being killed, because he's the leader behind this thing. There's a lot of other people along the way, but he's one of them.
They had vague objectives with restrictive, minimalist rules of engagement. No more.
Okay, that's the end of that one. And I didn't realize we were that close to that one being done. But yeah, he hit it right there at the end when he said it again. Minimalist, vague. This is the most vague war ever. They went from, we got to take out their nukes. They don't have nukes. Got to take out their missiles, and they got to. The Iranians have to acquiesce to all these demands. No nukes, no nuclear research for your civilian projects, your civilian use. No missiles. In fact, no military. You have to just bow down and accept whatever we want. You have to not have a military or any way to defend yourself in your own country, in your own region of the world. That in itself was going to guarantee war, because no sane nation or government is ever going to go to that wants to go on existing and be viable on the world stage. It's not possible. It's utterly irrational junk that's coming from the West and the United States and demanding this kind of stuff. But we all know who it's for. We all know who it's for in the end. But there he is. There was Mr. Hegseth again, being, over these past few weeks, something that's come to my mind again and again as I've listened to all this stuff and thinking about where their mentality is. Trump, Rubio, Hegseth, that one guy who's the Treasury Secretary, I can't remember his name right now, who have been in an affluent position their whole lives, or had power, or maybe like Hegseth, maybe he didn't always have power, but he always wanted it, and he sure enough got it now. All these different things. It made me just think about the state of the United States and where America is in this current period of history, and where it is in its own history, and in the context of world history and the rise and fall of nations. I was just thinking to myself, when I hear things like from Hegseth just then, I think the leadership, the elites in this country have just been in this elitist, affluent position that is reminiscent of, it's like what can be said about the governing class of this country for quite a while now. And that is the expression that my grandma used to say, you got more money than sense. That's what I think about the U.S. government, more money than sense. Because they don't live the life you live. They don't live the life I live. I've got to leave here Monday morning and start driving a semi-truck. That's the job that I finally found that I can do more or less indefinitely. Might have to do it until I die. I have to do it, or I'm not going to have any money at all. And I'm just going to go into poverty, and my problems will probably compound so much that I'll get ill and die. That's reality. These people don't live in that kind of reality. The real world. They have power beyond reason, and it's ruining the fortunes of many of their countrymen right now. And I'm not just talking about the higher gas prices that are going on because of the Strait of Hormuz being shut down with the war. I'm talking about much more long-term consequences than that we're going to end up paying because of this insane war. Now, let me go ahead and go on now to Mr. Rubio. He's the other clip that I found. Just play it, David.
Donald Trump saying it's just the start of a relentless campaign that could last more than a month. Those words backed up, in fact, by the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin
This actually, in chronological order, should have been before that first clip, I think.
Netanyahu.
Because this is about Rubio saying why the attack was done when it was done.
Who said the war will take some time. Well, let's hear the words then from Marco Rubio.
If we stood and waited for that attack to come first before we hit them, we would suffer much higher casualties. And so the president made the very wise decision. We knew that there was going to be an Israeli action. We knew that that would precipitate an attack against American forces. And we knew that if we didn't preemptively go after them before they launched those attacks, we would suffer higher casualties and perhaps even higher those killed. And then we would all be here answering questions about why we knew that and didn't act.
Now, that is just so fascinating, isn't it? This insane logic that says we had to get them before they got us. And yet he admits they only attacked because they knew the Israelis were going to attack. And so we just had to do it. Because if we didn't do it, and people knew it was going to happen, then we'd have to be blamed and harassed, and they'd have congressional Senate hearings or whatever grilling us about why didn't you do something when you knew you could have done something. My question is, how in the world could you come to be in that situation to begin with? It was for Israel. He let the cat out of the bag, and you gotta hand it to Rubio. He didn't mean to do it, but he did it. Gotta love him. You just got, not really, but you gotta love him. He let the cat out of the bag. This was for Israel. This was about not letting them go it alone in something that they, or maybe I should just say, Benjamin Netanyahu was absolutely going to do no matter what, because he was just that antsy. He couldn't hold his whatever any longer, and he just had to go to war again for reasons. And he said, "No, you're coming with us, America. You USA. We need support, Air Force support, Navy support. We need bodies. We need lots of ordnance and munitions. We need lots of firepower being directed at exactly where we want it directed at. And don't you say a word about it. Just do it." What a slave! I'm not watching that clip again. And that was when Rubio was a little bit more polished about it. The first time where he said it, maybe he said it within a day or so of that, there were people standing behind him. That's the first clip I saw. The one we just watched was just something I found just so I could cover it in this live stream tonight. When he first said, well, we knew they were going to do it, and so we had to do it. That is insane from a military point of view, and I'm not a military expert. My whopping less than 3 years in the military it doesn't make me any kind of an expert. I do know this much, however. If you're launching a war, it needs to be, well, I'll go ahead and say it, at the risk of sounding unpatriotic, you need to have done it the way that the Iranians had planned their defense, and that is months and months in advance, about exactly what they were going to do and how they were going to do it if and when America and Israel did the things that they've turned out to do. And Israel now is being pummeled. Part of me wants to feel sorry for them. Unfortunately, I can't, because I've just been watching this stuff for way too long. And while I do feel always sorrow, sympathy, compassion for the regular people who don't have anything to do with anything, and they just get trampled because they happen to be in the way, I always feel sorry for those people. But as far as the government, the IDF, the religious nut jobs, and I do mean the fanatical extremists with the chosen people, superior race, Jews are the Superman, those people, if don't feel any sympathy at all for them, for what's going on, because if you're that carried away with your insane aggression toward other people, you don't get to have a state. And so I think they just might be in the process of losing theirs. And again, that's an unfortunate thing, very unfortunate thing for the regular people. But yeah, just thinking about Rubio, just the way he looked there. What a slave. What a slave. It's so pathetic. It's so beneath anything that I would ever imagine the USA to be, or any servant of the USA, any statesman, any politician. And we don't think much of politicians, I know that, but any statesman, any elected representative, that he would be there saying, well, we had to do it because we knew it was going to happen, and we'd rather. So you'd rather be hounded about a war that is going horribly than if you knew they were going to attack. Except, what were they going to attack? When were the Iranians going to attack? And this is something that Trump has been saying. I just was convinced, I became convinced that they were going to attack us. The only way you could become convinced that Iran was going to attack you with their non-existent nuclear weapons is if you let Benjamin Netanyahu's voice, and maybe the voices in your own brain, just collide and have their way inside your psyche for so long that you can't think straight anymore. That you don't know what's what. And every time I hear President Trump now, it's like part of me just wants to just shake my head and say, the best thing I can say is he's too old. And he's had a stressful job for too long. And he's deteriorating Biden style, Joe Biden style, in front of all of us. And just like in Joe Biden era, nobody seems to want to do anything about it because they're scared to death of something. What exactly that is, we won't know until they write their book decades from now. And that's just the situation we're in right now. Okay, let's watch the last one. Man, it's so depressing. It's so pathetic. It is just so pathetic. This is going to be about the children's school, the elementary school that was bombed. So brace yourself. Share the screen and let's do it. Scott Ritter described what happened with this as a double tap operation, that the Tomahawk cruise missiles did a little bit of damage, but that another one, there were one missile and then two. The second one was the one that caused this fire. I forget what he called it, a thermobaric chamber inside of the school, something. I'm getting the name wrong, but he said basically this was from 3 weeks ago. Breaking, 36 students have been killed. No, that number rose all the way up to 170 something, including a few parents, including a few teachers who were in there trying to get kids out and assess the situation when the second missile came in. And as Scott Ritter described it, literally cooked these children and the people that were inside. Unfortunately, I'm not even looking at the right clip. I thought that there was actually some narration over the one that I had chosen. So, is this it? I thought there was something with some more information. It's from 3 weeks ago.
Have you been to the grocery store lately?
This guy.
Those
Okay, it's in the subtitles. Funerals for those kids. I thought for sure there was some actual. Sorry, folks. I didn't mean to get the wrong clip. CNBC, What in the World Did They Say? I haven't really given a care about what most of the Western and American news has been about this because, well, I just don't give a care. You don't have any right to take the country to war just because you wanted to. You created a disastrous situation. Which one of these things was it? This one was from 2 weeks ago.
February 28th, 2026, the US and Israel had launched the first wave of strikes against Iran. 150 of them were children, all killed in what may be the single
Okay.
deadliest strike on civilians since the war began. Girls who woke up that morning and went to school on the very first day of the war had absolutely nothing to do with it. Right next to the school is an Iranian Revolutionary Guard naval.
This is the thing, and this is what I'll end on tonight. We'll watch a little bit more of this in a second, but I could tell by skipping ahead, this has the clip of President Trump on the airplane saying, "Oh, well, they probably did it. Yeah, they did it. They're not very accurate in their shooting." When he did that, when he said that the Iranians shot the school, that the Iranians did that, I was just thinking to myself, what am I thinking? Because I'm already done with this man. He's that bad. But for him to the audacity to say that, to even suggest it, and it's not just arrogant and evil. It's also really dumb, because when you say the Iranians can't shoot, you're losing all credibility because you're making ignorant statements. This is one more thing that people would have known if only they had listened to somebody who actually knows what in the world they're talking about. Scott Ritter did a great breakdown talking about the Iranians' reprisal attack after Trump brilliantly killed Soleimani, the high-up general over there, way back when, a few years ago, and the Iranian counterstrike, which they had kind of worked out. Look, we're going to hit you here. They always give this ahead of time warning. At least they did then. All bets are off now. They're just trying to kill U.S. troops and run them out of the Middle East now, which who can blame them? Just saying. When they did that, Scott Ritter broke down how the Iranians didn't actually target the troops where they slept, the bunkers and so forth. They attacked facilities and warned them ahead of time so that the troops were actually in the bunkers and in like safety and not getting blown up. Like nobody died when they did that. And that was a demonstration that the Iranians have this serious missile capability, these ballistic missiles that can hit wherever they want to hit. And then in the 12-day war, in the last bit of that, when the Israelis were tapping out saying, we can't take this anymore, come and intervene, America. And Donald Trump blew up some probably empty nuclear sites, supposedly building nuclear weapons. When the Iranians, the last missiles, Scott Ritter did this great breakdown when he said the last wave of missiles that Iran shot into Israel, they shot empty warehouses. Yeah, but he says they were trying to send a message saying, we're using some of our newer stuff now, our newer missiles, more advanced, more precision guided, more on target, all the rest of it. These super missiles, right, did maybe the least amount of destruction, the very last wave or third wave of whatever it was of the 12-day war, but how that showed anybody who's looking that we can hit anywhere we want to hit whenever we want to. And now here's Donald Trump on an airplane, completely ignorant of these things, saying, oh, I don't know anything about it. Well, they probably did it. They're not very accurate after all with their shooting. Saying that the Iranians killed their own children in this school. There are so many people who talk about this stuff better than I do. Again, this is just a vent session for me, folks. This is just me getting it off my chest because I just have to. I just have to say something. So I thought I would say a few things tonight, but it's like I'm struggling to get through this. It's so ridiculous. It's sinful to be this incompetent and stupid and be in positions of leadership. I'm sorry. We're just in bad shape. Let's watch some more of this and be done.
Base, a legitimate military target, exactly the kind of facility you would expect to find at the top of a strike list on day one of a war. In the past,
that's the thing right there. This thing was thought to be something that was government related, like an official high up target list and not a school. And apparently it was a high up IRGC building like 15 years ago, But since then, you use different buildings for different purposes at different times of the century. 15 years later, who knows what it might be. Well, this time it was a school that had kids in it, and it got blown up. From what it was Larry Johnson, the former CIA guy who's been interviewed a whole lot in these YouTube videos people put up, these geopolitical analysts, etc. He says it's very obviously a Tomahawk cruise missile, and only America has these Tomahawk cruise missiles. Like you hit pause, and you can see the little fins on the missile as it went down into the school. I just can't believe Trump said that. It just floors me. I don't know. I don't know about
The
it.
school and the base shared the same compound. That was 10 years ago. Satellite imagery confirms the school had been clearly separated from the base for a decade, and when investigators looked at the strike pattern, the school was not caught in by a nearby blast, but was hit directly.
The blame game.
The question of who pulled the trigger became immediately and deeply political. Iran blamed the United States and Israel from the moment the smoke cleared. The foreign minister posted images of the victims' graves. The head of Iran's National Security Council addressed Trump directly, writing, "Is this the anthem you composed for freedom in Iran?" Today, Trump, speaking to reporters, dismissed the accusations entirely.
Did the United States bomb a girls' elementary school?
And that man has been killed since then. Ali, I forget his last name. And what a thing for him to say, because this is something that's very interesting about this war and social media and real time being up to date about this stuff and knowing things in real time, like within 24 hours, having important details delivered. Like look at that. Look what he says. Mr. Trump, was this the anthem you composed for freedom in Iran? Because that was Trump's whole deal. He wants to bring freedom to Iran. Well, I guess he liberated those 170 kids, and now he's working on the rest of them.
Reporters dismissed the accusations entirely.
Larajani.
Did the United States
Here we
bomb a
go.
girls' elementary school in southern Iran on the first day of the war and kill 175 people?
Based on what I've seen, that was done by Iran.
Is that true, Mr. XN?
It was Iran who did that. We're certainly investigating. Still investigating. But the only side that targets civilians is Iran.
Those two men look like actual psychopaths there, standing there, and it just floors me that we're in this situation. That he said that it was probably them. Yeah, it was probably Iran who did it.
But while the president was saying that, inside the Pentagon, military investigators were quietly reaching a very different conclusion. American forces likely responsible. The same military whose commander-in-chief was busy blaming Iran.
This is what gets me. It happened the same morning. This is why I wanted to talk about this clip, because it's been like 3 weeks now, going into like month 4, maybe it's been 4 weeks. I learned about that, about the school being hit and kids being killed, like within an hour of waking up in the morning, getting on my phone and seeing that they had killed Ayatollah Khomeini, that they had blown him up, that they had attacked him, and they've killed like 40 something of the upper echelon military leaders, like 40 something of them, and they're bombing Iran, bombing Tehran, they're dropping bombs, the war started, they're taking out because then it was about regime change. I learned about that looking on my phone, and like an hour later, I saw another clip because I happened to be listening to both sides. I was watching like foreign sources and, well, I'll go ahead and admit it, mostly foreign sources to get some actual details, some truth, as well as like the podcaster, not the legacy media on this side of the pond in the West, but people who aren't necessarily in the corporate media, whatever they had to say about it. And again, people who are more on the page of like the kind of guests that Andrew Napolitano has on his show, those are the people I were listening from, and I've been able to stay fairly well informed about this stuff. But just focusing on that one point, I learned about the kids being killed in that school within an hour or so of learning about Khomeini being killed. I'm thinking to myself, they're actually going to suggest that the Iranians did this when the Iranians were all set to start launching as part of their dead hand plan if the U.S. tried to do a decapitation strategy of launching these missiles everywhere into neighboring countries that were hosting U.S. bases, hitting Israel, hitting any American asset in the region. And they want to suggest that while they were at it, they also shot at themselves and shot a school full of kids. This is some raging retard stuff, folks, and it's so dangerous, and it's really evil. The callousness that he showed when he said that, and there's Hex that said, "We're investigating it. We're still investigating it." But the only person who attacks civilians is Iran. Meanwhile, today, 3 weeks later, I just saw a story. It's now been two different sources, folks. It's a multiple sources coming out with this story. These landmines that the U.S. is dropping near the missile cities, anti-tank mines for people to pick up and blow themselves up. Just regular people or kids, hikers. But it's only Iran who attacks civilians. It's pretty rich. There were apparently a couple of people, at least a couple, who advised Trump not to launch a war against Iran, and I believe it was General Kane who was one of them. And he was the Air Force general who was so gung-ho and just praising the military prowess of the bombing of the nuclear sites last year, 12-day war. And I think also a little bit of the Venezuela operation, but especially back then when the B-2 bombers, and he was doing these press conferences talking about all of this wonderful military machinery and how every man and woman is so well trained and how so much goes into this stuff and how impressive it is, that he basically tried to tell Trump that the Iranians have capability, sir, and it's not going to go the way you plan it to if you just launch a war and try and take out the Ayatollah and do whatever you think you're going to do. Please rethink it. But here we are, and yeah, it's just a bad situation overall, folks, because now they're trying to, I think, sneak, like you can sneak people around, trying to sneak ground forces into Iran to take the Karg Island or whatever it is to get a hold of some oil refinery and whatnot. And I'm just thinking to myself, they're going to be seen. They're coming in these big ships. It's one more thing you'd know if you'd been listening to Colonel Douglas McGregor, Danny Davis, if you've been reading Box Day's blog or listening to so many other people, Scott Ritter especially. It's like they're going to be seen. They're going to be shot by drones and missiles. It's, I think Douglas McGregor said it best. It's like they're wanting to fight the Second World War over again with those kind of military capabilities, but the Russians and now especially the Iranians now have moved on already to World War III, to the drone and hypersonic missile age, combined with surveillance, reconnaissance, intelligence. It's like, you didn't have to do this, President Trump. You didn't have to launch this insane excursion, as you call it. You didn't have to do this. And yeah, it's more than just buyer's remorse that people have. Again, I was so out of it that I've said in previous videos, I didn't even vote in 2024 because I just lost all confidence in all these people. And this is just running it home and giving everybody a painful education. It's going to get real painful when people where I live end up paying $6 a gallon for some unleaded gas. Big changes could be coming down the road, folks. Permanent changes, the kind of adjustments to your life that you're not going to want to make, but you're just going to have to. And it's going to be that way until we can find some sane leadership, people who are willing to abide by the law, by the Constitution. This stuff was not supposed to happen, and it shouldn't be happening. It's not enough just for me to say, well, there should have been a declaration of war from the Congress. Yes, that should have been done. But to what end? So that we can go ahead and go to war anyway and lose the war because militarily we are outplanned and outthought and out-engineered because the military just got so used to buying big, expensive stuff that's based on 50-year-old tactics and strategy. I got nothing left, folks. I got nothing left for tonight. Thank you so much for listening to me. If anybody watches this stream after the fact, or if anybody watches the upload on YouTube, I appreciate you letting me vent and just verbalizing a lot of the stuff that I've been hearing from other people and been gleaning to educate me, to get better informed, if for no other purpose than to just know what's going on and to know how badly things are going right now. Because you got to know what's going on. There's nothing else you can do. You can't be ignorant of what's going on. You got to know what's going on so that you don't end up leading people into destruction. I'm looking at you, White House. Till next time, folks, thank you for listening to me, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.